Welcome to a new episode of Out from the Horrorbox. I'm your ooky spooky host, Dom, and in this episode, we will take a look at some news, talk about the horror TV series from Shudder, Creepshow, track down a pair of cryptids, and end on some creepy stories. I just want to start off, though, everybody, just let you know that I know the episode's a little bit behind schedule. It's a little bit further into November than I'd like it to be. It's just my job now is very tiring sometimes, and so you get home and you want to work on everything, and you just decide, what, I'd rather just kind of rest, and I finally have some time to get this episode done. So hopefully I'll get back to a weekly schedule for each episode. That's what I'm hoping to do from here on out. So, without further ado, though, let's grab a bowl of all Scaries.
This is the fucking news.
Okay, so starting off with some news. The fourth installment of the Hellraiser franchise, Hellraiser Bloodline, was the last film in the Hellraiser series that was released theatrically. It's not the last one in the series, unfortunately. That series kept going, and they even took a bunch of films that were not meant to be part of that series, and they just retroactively fit them to be in there. But besides that, it was a troubled production to begin with, and eventually led the director, Kevin Yeager, to walk away when Miramax demanded a bunch of reshoots. And then Miramax brought on Joe Chappelle to complete the film. So back when Yeager saw the finished cut of Hellraiser Bloodline, that was post reshoots because they went back and reshot, it had become so removed from what he originally thought it was going to be that he decided to remove his name using the Alan Smithy pseudonym. And if anyone doesn't know what Alan Smithy is, that's a pseudonym that directors will give to a film if they don't want their name on the film. So as a way so that, like, hey, I know this is going to be a bad movie. I don't want my name anywhere near it. Just put this name on there instead. But so did Chappelle. Joe Chappelle also decided after coming in, and like getting things rearranged, reshooting things, he decided the same thing. He's like, yeah, this is not a film I want my name attached to, so I'm going to use that as well. So while Yeager's version of this kind of prequel/sequel is just lost. Unless they're able to find, like, hidden somewhere that, like, some executive, like, locked up some early version of or some version of that, we're never going to see that version of the film. But what Arrow did with because they're releasing all four of the films in like a quadrology box set thing, but included with Hellraiser Bloodline is going to be a work print that assembles the footage that Yeager shot, and it's gonna be it's not gonna be a director's cut, but it is going to be the closest like we'll ever get to a director's cut and to see what Yeager wanted. And from what I'm reading about like how they went about this, but getting that work print together and like seeing where it goes and how it starts and like the whole plot and everything and like the the motivations for characters and the way that they interact, all of that changes and is so more nuanced, and it makes you like it's not a completely different story, but it's enough to where like, man, it just sounds so much better than what we got, because what we got originally with the reshoots and the cuts and everything, they wanted it to start off already in the future with 2127, and it goes back to the 18th century because he starts telling like the story of his ancestor, and then there's like these overlapping timelines, and then it goes back to like 1996, and then so it's like the same guy playing the same these characters in the same lineage, and there's just things like, so like they wanted to see Pinhead earlier in the film, so that's why they decided to place the beginning kind of bookend the movie. It was, they started off in space and stuff, although that kind of like throws everything off, like so I guess also like Angelique, who's one of the demons, she's played by Valentina Vargas. Her motivations are completely different, and it plays out like a different like type of game between each other, between her and Pinhead. And so, you know, like it's not a completely different story, like I said, but it is like an interesting story. It's more interesting, more engaging, like where we get to start off and we get to see her being brought from hell, and then like her interacting, and you know, like it shows that like she's been gone from hell for like this amount of time, and then eventually, you know, she does become a Cenobite and returns to hell, and all of that. Just character development is just fleshed out more into this, and it just clarifies things from like certain characters that happen in the film. And when you watch the what we got in the workprint, non-directors, quote unquote directors cut, the one that Joe Chappelle and Yeager, you know, they put Alan Smith, Kevin Yeager put their, you know, took their names off. They that film is just like all over the place. I remember being a kid and waiting to rent that film, and I rented it, and I remember like, oh, I kind of liked it because, oh yeah, it's like, you know, I love when they take anybody to space, just because it is a little ridiculous to like, how do you get this character? How do you get Jason to space? How do you get Leprechaun to space? How do you get the critters to space, right? And the same thing. How do you get Pinhead to space? And just like hearing and reading and like just everything I've seen, I'm like, I gotta watch this. I gotta see this. This just sounds like a way better film than what we got. Even just, it's kind of like with the producer's cut from Halloween, the Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. And to me, that is a better film. Kind of. I mean, it's only better in that like certain things make a little bit more sense. Some characters aren't killed as early. Like certain things are actually like explained a little bit. I like the original one just because it's ridiculous, and you can tell that like Harvey Weinstein butchered that movie. But anyways, I want this film. I want to see what that work print looks like, to see just what kind of story we could have got before. Just like everything else, the studios get involved and they come in and they see something and they're like, well, we want this now. We want to see Pinhead now. When it's like, okay, but if you let it slowly build up like we're doing, then, you know, it'll have a better like overall like story. It'll have a better overall characters. And they're like, no, I don't. We want it now. It's unfortunate, but I'm glad that like, okay, it's been what, like almost 30 years since that movie came out, and we're finally getting something like this. I'm glad to see that, you know, someone decided to take the time to like, let's kind of put the stuff together and see what we got. And yeah, we'll see what we got. It's going to be part of Arrow's Hellraiser Quartet of Torment box set. It's going to have all new 4K restorations of the theatrically released Hellraiser films. And it's like, there's quite a few, there's some box sets that I'm like, that's kind of down. I don't know why I buy that, but this one sounds really good, and the box art looks amazing. It kind of reminds me of the Scanners box art, the Criterion Collection. That one is amazing. I have that one, and for the Blu-ray, and it's amazing. I love the way that it like comes apart. Oh, it's pretty cool. But yeah, no, this I want to get this. It sounds amazing. I love Hellraiser, And just to, especially something like that, where it was like the fourth one and the third one, like the first two go together really well. The third one's very like, oh, you can see that they were trying to be more mainstream about it. And the fourth one was like, they decided like, there's just too much intervention. Too much like people coming in saying, no, we got to get to the gore faster. We got to get to the deaths faster. We got to get to the bad guy faster. And it ruins things. Sometimes you do, like, writers and directors and like certain creatives have their set way of storytelling, and sometimes it's in a way so that it's meant to be like, oh, it's like a bigger reveal towards the end, like, oh shit, it was Pinhead the whole time or something, you know, when it makes a better, like, when you get to see him, like, you haven't seen him throughout the whole film, and then when you see him now, it's like more imposing, more of a threat. And it just kind of sucks, but we'll finally get to see what that was supposed to be like. Some time ago, oh man, this was before the pandemic even hit or anything, we learned that there was going to be an adaptation of Alien, the film series, into a TV series, a continuation on FX that was from creator Noah Hawley, who also created Fargo. We know that Fede Alvarez is going to be releasing another installment in the film series. That's supposed to be released in theaters, I think, about August of next year, 2024. But we just got some new information that the Alien franchise is likely going to be delayed until sometime in 2025. So it's going to be a year after the film comes out. Hawley had stated that they were waiting for the strike to end, and we know that the writer's strike is already done. The actor's strike, I think, has been suspended. I don't think it's done yet. I know that they're trying to work. They came to some kind of agreement, but they're not a full. I know they're still working on it. I think they tentatively have agreed to end it or something, but I know that like it's not going. The negotiations weren't exactly what actors and people thought they were going to get for certain things, and then he went on to say that the plan right now is to go back in January and be shooting in February. Looks like shoot until July or so, which was the air date somewhere in the first half of 2025. How much of the series is already done? We know that production began back in July, and then that's when it kind of stalled because that's when the SAG and AFTRA strike stopped and put a pause on all production, or anything that wasn't already in production that wasn't part of the agreement to shut down. I was able to complete filming most of the first hour. That said, I wasn't able to film anything with my star, so I still have the bulk of the show to film, and we have 7 more hours to shoot. That's Hawley, as he explained it, referring to Sydney Chandler, who's going to be the star. I certainly would have loved to get the show in front of people as quickly as possible, and I would same. But S.E. Davis, who's from The Babadook, is supposed to be in it. Ardesh Gorov from The White Tiger, Alex Lothar from The End of the Fucking World, and Samuel Blanken from Black Mirror. They're all supposed to star in this. And it's supposed to be an extension and reinvention of the films that have come before, with Alan Ripley not involved. So I don't know exactly if that's supposed to be a continuation or if it's supposed to be like they're going to just show us like the same story but just retold, or it's just a complete overhaul of like the first, like, I don't know, 4 films. I don't know which ones they'll span. I feel like what it'll probably be is kind of like a soft kind of reboot for the series, because I feel like it's going to tie into the films, or maybe they don't. I don't know. Like, I'm really curious about this because you could go different ways with it. You could tie it to the broader universe, but then you're just showing us like a different part of that space, or you just completely redo like what we've already seen, but just give more context to things and whatever. And like maybe, name drop this or name drop that, or like kind of reference this, reference that, and kind of put things more together and explain things a little bit that weren't explained in the original films. But I honestly, I don't think it's going to be anything that crazy. What it might be in the end is kind of like a retelling of the first film, and then with some newer characters that, like you said, not Alan Ripley. But then it kind of goes off into its own thing, kind of trying to explain some things in the universe. Maybe tie back to Prometheus, maybe not, right? Who knows? I would love for it to tie back to Prometheus, especially because Ridley Scott is on board as a producer. So I feel like he should be involved to be like, you guys kind of have to talk about this. And I'm in the minority, I know, but I loved Prometheus. I thought as soon as I saw it, I thought it was amazing. It was such a good film. I don't know why people hate that film. It's I think they were expecting aliens, and then they got something that was, which Ridley Scott never said it was supposed to be exactly a prequel to Alien or like anything like that. It's set in the universe, and it's supposed to explain certain things about Alien and the aliens, the xenomorphs or whatever. But whatever, that's a whole nother story. I should talk about Prometheus on here. But anyways, I can't wait to see this. It does suck that we have to wait, but I'm all for people getting what they deserve for like pay for their ideas, for any residuals, anything like that. So if it helps that you guys have to put this on hold for like a year or two, that's fine by me, as long as you're getting what you deserve, right? So almost 2 years ago, we got news that Stephen King was going to be writing a novella called Rattlesnakes, which he said is going to be a sequel, or he referred to as a sequel to the 1981 novel Cujo. And I mean, that was turned into obviously a hit film that most people, I think, know of the film rather than the book. And I know that a lot of like the stuff gets referenced in other books. He brings things up here and there, like little Easter eggs and things like that. So there was never been really a sequel to Cujo. He very rarely makes sequels. Of all of his books or novels, The Shining has a sequel called Dr. Sleep. Salem's Lot has kind of a sequel. It's a short story and a prequel. They're just two short stories, but I wouldn't consider them sequels. But also with The Dark Tower, there's also kind of like a sequel in there too. But that's a story for another time. The Dark Towers themselves have multiple parts to them. What else has a sequel to it? See, that's what he doesn't really ever really write like sequels to his stories. That's why I think a lot of Black House, I guess, it's for To the Talisman. I know Gwendy's Button Box. That has two sequels. He's been making more sequels with like his later things, like Finders Keepers and Mr. Mercedes and all that, and then like the new Holly book. But he very rarely doesn't give us sequels to stuff. And so seeing this, when he says he's referring to something as a sequel, he's probably referring to it as a sequel rather than just like, oh, like there's this one reference in what was it? Is it oh man, what's the novel? It's not The Dead Zone. The Dead Zone, I forgot what it is. Maybe it is The Dead Zone that it's considered like a somewhat sequel because they mention stuff about like the dog. I don't remember if it's that one. Or Cujo is a sequel to that one because that's what it is. That's right. I know I'm rambling here, but there's a part in Cujo, I think, at the beginning where I think the house that they're in was the house that was Frank Dodd. Was his name Frank Dodd? He's the one of the villains that he's trying to catch in the dead zone, whatever. That's getting off tangent, but see, like, he does that where it'll be like it's a reference to, like, oh, remember we went up to Derry the other day, like, and it felt weird, like, like all dark and stuff. So, like, he'll throw in little things like that, but he very rarely is like, this is a sequel to this. Like, when he brought out Dr. Sleep, it was because it was a sequel to The Shining. He went out of his way to be like, this is a sequel to The Shining. That's what it is. So that'll all be part of a new collection of novellas and short stories. It is going to be called You Like It Darker, and that is supposed to come out May of next year, 2024. And what I'm getting from this is that Rattlesnakes is about a grieving widower who travels to Florida for respite and instead receives an unexpected inheritance with major strings attached. So that sounds pretty good. Honestly, I love Stephen King, and I know there's some people out there that don't like him and his writing, but I love him. I mean, yes, he goes off on this and that, and he has to give you, like, the whole history of this and why somebody does that, and they all have to have a catchphrase, and they say this and that. But sometimes it's very real to certain people in real life. I found out that some people do that, where they have, like, their own catchphrase in real life. But from the list of that I have of what the titles of each, like, story is, I want to read it. These sound pretty good. Like, well, here, I'm just going to read through the list of them. Maybe we'll talk about a few of them. Two Talented Bastards is the first one, which explores the long-hidden secret of how the gentleman from the title of the film, the Two Talented Bastards, got their skills. The Fifth Step, Willie the Weirdo, Danny Coughlin's Bad Dream. It's about a brief and unprecedented psychic flash that upends dozens of lives. Oh, that's kind of weird. That sounds kind of like Flash Forward. If anybody saw that one season, it was based on a book, but it was only one season, and it was pretty good. I liked it. I thought that show was pretty good. There's Finn on Slide in Road, Red Screen, The Turbulence Expert, Lori, Rattlesnakes, The Dreamers, which is a Tactarian Vietnam vet answers a job and learns that there are some corners of the universe best left unexplored. And the last one in the book is called The Answer Man. And that story asks if prescience is good luck or bad, and reminds us that life marked by unbearable tragedy can still be meaningful. So if some of those stories sound good to you, then check it out next year when it comes out. I'm going to, hopefully, I'll finally be able to get to it, because it's been kind of hard, like, figuring out how to do it, because it's a book rather than a movie or a show. I've been trying to work on the Dark Towers for a while, so hopefully I'll be able to get those done, because I've been wanting to talk about those since forever, and I just want to talk about Stephen King in general, but I just haven't known where to start. And I think about going over, like, the Dark Tower would be pretty good way to get into that, because then you could kind of branch out from there and talk about other stories. But yeah, hopefully I'll be able to get to that soon. But yeah, this sounds pretty good. Like I said, I love Stephen King, so I'll probably check it out. Okay, so the past couple of reviews that I've done for the podcast were on Creepshow 1, Creepshow 2, the films, and I wanted to get into the the TV series, and that's what I'm going to do right now. I kind of want to go over it a little bit and kind of review it here, do like a small review, just because when I started going into and trying to do a little bit more for an episode for it. There's just not a lot for me to feel like for at least like 30 minutes worth of time. So I decided to just put it into one of these episodes of the Oops All Scaries. So let's get into Creepshow, the series.
Who are you?
You know it's okay to be scared, right?
You gonna tell me what this is all about?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. You've killed before. You kill again.
I see what you did there.
There are things in the corners of this world. Help me! They'll drive you insane. A new generation of horror has risen from the dead. You're in for it now.
Why?
It's the way it's supposed to be.
Creepshow, the television series, is adapted from the film series of the same name. It is produced by special effects creator Greg Nicotero for Shudder since 2019. Nicotero is known for working with George A. Romero on Day of the Dead and producing The Walking Dead. The first episode aired on September 26, 2019, and just finished its fourth season. Just like the films, there have been quite a few writers, like Stephen King and Joe Hill, who have had their stories adapted for the series. There's also been a lot of well-known actors, like Giancarlo Esposito, Tobin Bell, David Arquette, Keith David, and Adrienne Barbeau, who was in the original Creepshow film. These are just a few that have performed in an episode and given us like such unique characters. And one thing I love is that the show is very true to the original Creepshow and Creepshow 2. It keeps that same kind of style and still that feel like you're watching like you're watching a continuation of Creepshow. That's what I love. Each episode has 2 episodes in it, or like two smaller episodes. It still starts off with the creep, and I love his redesign here. He's more of a puppet like he used to be. He's very like practical, like he's there, like not CGI, not special effects, it's effects enough to be like puppetry, I think. I like how he's more decayed than he was before, more skeletal, but he still retains the same kind of feel from the first film, especially when you see him live action in that first shot when he's just like waiting outside the window in the beginning of the film in Creepshow. And that's one thing I love, is that like they kept the spirit of him alive through this, like the spirit of the creep. And I mean, I like that like Tom Savini like gave a performance of the creep in the second one with like makeup on and stuff, but I think keeping it like this just calls back and makes you like tie like more clearly to that first film. And I love that they kept like the comic style too, where it opens with like each episode, while the two mini episodes inside the one larger episode, it's still wrapped around with the comic book, and we still get to see like hints towards other episodes and callbacks to other things that we've seen before. And that's one thing I love too, is in the first couple episodes of the first season, there are little Easter eggs to like the previous like creep shows. Like you'll see like the little ashtray that was used in like Father's Day, There's a crate. There's things like that. And I love that each episode, like each like smaller episode within it's, like I said, the tone is still the same as like these other creep shows before it. Creepshow 1, Creepshow 2. Really quick, there was Creepshow 3, which is not produced by anyone that we've known or heard of before that I've talked about so far. So not Greg Nicotero, not Tom Savini, not George A. Romero, not Stephen King. They had no involvement in that film. I haven't watched it. I watched a review of it, and it's just not good. You could tell that somebody just put it together to be like, oh, like, we have the rights to make this, so let's just make it. And it doesn't come off really good. It's just like not really good in any way. But I will say that the new or the episodes that we get, I think there's only maybe 12. Oh, no, I don't think there's 12. Okay, so there's segments. I was looking for that word. Okay, so there's 6 episodes in the first season, 12 segments. So there's 1 segment, 2 segments. And they're, this first season is pretty good. The first episode starts off with gray matter, and I think it's the head in the house. Is that the first one? But it's gray matter is it's a story that's based off of a short story that is Stephen King's short story. I think it's in Night Shift. That one's pretty good. The House of the Head. That's the one I was thinking of. Is the one that is about this girl who has like a dollhouse, and she has like she's really intricate story she made for like the family that lives in there with the dolls. But then there's this little severed head that just starts showing up and is like haunting them. And it's honestly, the first time I saw it was pretty scary. I watched it again and I was like, oh, it's not as scary as I remember, but it's still pretty scary. And I think I'm just going to get into some of the other ones that are my favorites. There's an episode that is... I'm sorry, I'm looking for it right now. Oh yeah, The Man in the Suitcase. That I always like that one. That one's pretty good. It's where a guy, he gets a suitcase when he comes off of an airplane. It's not his suitcase. He thinks it is, but when he gets home, he finds out that it has a man inside of it. The man, whenever they cause him pain, he like sprouts out coins or something, and like basically they make all this money. Him and his roommate and then his girlfriend make all this money, but then his roommate and his girlfriend start cheating on, or they're cheating on him, and then it turns out the man in the suitcase is actually a djinn, and he's punishing greedy people, and basically in the end, like, you see his true form. And I love the effects that they do for this show. They go all out for some of the stuff, so it's pretty good. Another one from the first season is Bad Wolf Down. I love that they kind of give us a bunch of different versions of werewolves that we've seen from like different eras. There's one that's more the traditional wolf man from like the 40s. There's one that looks more animatronic-y, that's more like on fours. It's from like American Werewolf in London. And there's one that's more humanoid, that's bigger, and it's more like the Howling-ish. I love that they decided to like give us different types of werewolves in this, and the story itself is pretty good. And then that's also got The Finger, which is a pretty good one, where this guy, he finds a finger and it grows into like a little monster, but basically he loves the monster, and he uses it to like kill the people that he doesn't like. In the second season, the first episode, the second segment, it's called Sorry, I just had it. Public Television of the Dead. and that's just an homage to like PBS and The Evil Dead. Basically, they take kind of like that idea of Bob Ross, and he's like painting to kind of deal with like his trauma from like going to like Vietnam, and then there's a character who comes on with the Necronomicon and basically unlocks a book, reads it, and the Deadites start coming, and then they're trying to read it on air so that they can turn everyone into a Deadite, and then it's a fun, like, well put together episode that is just like such a great thing. It has Ted Raimi in it too, so it gives that little sprinkling of like, ooh, yeah, that's kind of cool. I love that idea of like mixing something like the Evil Dead with Bob Ross and like the paintings and stuff, and how it's like a completely different, right? I like idea. Those are just a couple examples and some of my favorites from the series. I have to catch up, though, on the 4th season. I haven't been able to catch up on that. I know it's aired on AMC because AMC airs it and then it puts it onto Shudder for you to watch and available on Prime or like wherever you watch Shudder. That's where I get it from. But I don't know if it's on there yet as a recording, but once it is, I'm going to watch it. But yeah, guys, I really want to say this. They did a great job at bringing Creepshow into like the TV format. I think it works way better than the films. Not way better as in like it's better than those. It's better than the second one, I will say, the show so far, except for The Raft. The Raft is phenomenal. But it's not way better than the first one. I think that they captured that sense of what that essence of what Creepshow is so well in the show, and it's so good. Like it feels like it feels just like a continuation of the movies. Like if you just got a new issue of Creepshow and it just kept going. So 2 highly regarded thumbs up. Go check it out if you can. If you can watch it on AMC, if you can watch it on Shudder, wherever you can, try and check it out. Yeah, it's good. If you love Creepshow, you're gonna love it. There are many strange things out there. UFOs and lights in the sky. Ghostly figures haunting the places we call home. Something out in the dark that goes bump in the night. What has always intrigued me is that cryptids are seen all over the world. They have been a part of folklore, a local legend, and even the stories we tell ourselves to stay calm when we hear something just past the light. Are these undiscovered animals? Extraterrestrials? Interdimensional beings? Only time will tell what will be discovered. In this continuation of our series on cryptids across the U.S., we head to the swamps of South Carolina and then head over to the Mississippi River as it winds through Missouri. And that's where we will continue our investigation. On July 14th, 1988, the Lee County Sheriff's Office investigated a report of a car damaged overnight while parked at a home in the area of Browntown outside Bishopville, South Carolina. This is on the edge of the Scape Ore Swamp. The car reportedly had tooth marks and scratches with hair and muddy footprints left behind. Sheriff Liston Truesdale noted that this was the start of various claims that eventually coalesced into a story about a lizard man that came out from the swamp. Prompted by the news of the vehicle damage, 17-year-old local Christopher Davis reported to the sheriff that his car was damaged by a creature he described as quote-unquote green and wet-like, about 7 feet tall, and had 3 fingers, red eyes, skin like a lizard, snake-like scales. And that was 2 weeks prior. According to Davis, he was driving home from working the night shift at a fast food restaurant when his car got a flat tire. After he fixed it, he saw the creature walking towards him. Davis got in his car and began to drive, but the creature was soon on top of the car. Davis applied the brakes and caused the creature to roll off the car, giving Davis enough time to escape. So from all this, news coverage and media resulted in increased attention to his claims, and local businesses began selling merchandise with like t-shirts and stuff, and the local Chamber of Commerce actually encouraged the media attention, and as it was good for the community. After all the attention and publicity that started coming from these reported sightings, the area soon became a tourist attraction for visitors and hunters. At the local radio station, WCOS, they offered $1 million reward to anybody who could capture the creature alive. On August 5th, Kenneth Orr, an airman stationed at Shaw Air Force Base, filed a police report alleging that he had encountered the lizard man on Highway 15. He said he'd shot and wounded it. He presented several scales and a small quantity of blood as evidence. Orr eventually recanted his account 2 days later when he was arraigned for unlawfully carrying a pistol and the misdemeanor offense of filing a false police report. According to Orr, he had hoaxed the sightings in order to keep stories about the lizard man in circulation. Reports of the creature gradually began to decline by the end of the summer, and local law enforcement officials speculated that the sightings were likely to have been a bear. Now, later in 2008, CNN mentioned the lizard man legend in a short story, a story about a couple in Bishopville who reported damage to their vehicle, including blood traces. And the blood traces were subsequently found to be from a domestic dog, though the local sheriff suggested it could have been a coyote or a wolf. In 2015, local television station WCIV featured photos and videos claiming to be the lizard man, allegedly taken by Jim Wilson and other unidentified individuals. In August 2017, the South Carolina Emergency Management Division sent a humorous tweet regarding possible paranormal activity during the solar eclipse that passed over the area, hinting that people of Lee and Sumter counties should remain vigilant for sightings of the lizard man. Skeptical investigator Ben Radford states that the details of Chris Davis' story does not hold up under scrutiny. Sheriff Truesdale stated that Davis' story never wavered, but Radford writes that this isn't true. That over weeks and months and repeated tellings, the details changed many times, from having scales to the creature being packed with mud, how far away Davis was from the creature when he first saw it, and whether or not it attacked his car. Radford questioned how Davis was able to see detailed the lizardman creature at 2 a.m. when there was no lighting nearby in a heavily wooded area when the moon was not bright. If this was an aggressive creature, why were there no other credible sightings? According to Radford, the timing of Davis' story did not make any sense. If Davis saw the creature in the shadows while he was closing the trunk of his car, Davis still had to get back in the car and take off, yet Davis' claims that the creature was so fast that it caught up with the car he was doing 40 miles per hour. And reports vary that the source that Davis told the police about the attack 2 or more weeks later. After investigating, Radford states that the polygraph test administered to Davis may have been a publicity stunt by Southern Marketing, a company arranging personal appearances for Davis. Another curious issue is that there are no photographs of the damage to Davis's car, which provides some evidence that something happened. Newspaper accounts give various descriptions of the damage to the car, and in one local newspaper, Davis is quoted as saying he escaped with no more than a scratch on his fender. Radford states that Davis's report is quite literally incredible, riddled with both implausibilities and impossibilities. It may be sincere or maybe a hoax, but in either event, no hard evidence of the creature has been found. Investigator Alicia Lutz has suggested that what Davis saw that night was actually a local butterbean farmer, Lucius Elmer, who was guarding his shed that night after recent thefts. Elmer claimed that he heard a car tire blow out and, thinking it was the thieves, walked out to the road to confront them. Elmer said that when Davis saw him, he screamed and took off. Now, I pose the question to you. What do you think about that? Huh? After hearing everything, I think it might be a little bit more leaning towards maybe, he got confused about like what he was seeing and what he thought he saw. And then he kind of gave the story of like, it was this thing that like tried to attack me. And then giving that report and then seeing the attention he's getting from it. That's when he decided, let's jazz it up. Let's spice it up a little bit. And then he started, and then, when you start reporting something, sometimes with hoaxes like this, people will just jump on and they'll start saying like, I saw it, or I saw it. But like, it could have just been whatever. It could have been anything from there, right? So what do you guys think? Do you think that the lizard man of, the lizard man of Scape or Swamp is really out there? I mean, maybe. Possibly. But let's move on to Missouri. In 1972, on the edge of the woods just outside the town of Louisiana, Missouri, two young boys and their sister smelled something terrible. They encountered a large, Bigfoot-like creature with a large, pumpkin-shaped head and black, furry hair covering its body. And so much fur on its head that its face couldn't be seen with the exception of glowing orange eyes. The 7-foot-tall beast was carrying a bloody dead dog. This was the first sighting of the Missouri Monster, or, as has become known, as Momo. Following the children's first sighting of Momo, more people reported having seen the beast in the weeks that followed. Reports stated that it was seen up and down the Mississippi River, with later sightings occurring further west along on other waterways. Others reported having caught fleeting glimpses of something in the woods, while some said that they smelled something beastly or heard haunting growls similar to bears, and inhuman screams. One of the witnesses was Richard Allen Murray, a lifelong local who had served as the town's fire chief and sat on the city council. He reported that when he was driving along a small creek that runs through the middle of the town, he saw something moving in the woods. When his headlights fell on the upright figure, the creature quickly ran away and disappeared. He later stated, "I was amazed to see something. I thought it was a bunch of nonsense. Then I saw something." In hindsight, Murray admitted that his sighting could have been nothing more than a bear, but at the time, the supposed monster was on everyone's brain. Sightings of Momo exploded that year, and the town experienced monster fever. At one point, a 20-person posse was put together to kill the beast, but the creature was never found. Following sightings in 1972, beginning at 3:30 p.m. July 11, first reported by Terry Wally and Doris Harrison, and lasting for about 2 weeks. Tracks were found and submitted to Lawrence Curtis, director of the Oklahoma City Zoo and Botanical Garden. He deemed the tracks to be a hoax. So, what do you guys think about that? About the Missouri Monster, Momo? I mean, we know that there are these reports of the wild men and things like Bigfoot-like creatures that roam all across North America, from down in Florida with the skunk ape to over on the border of Texas and Arkansas and Texarkana, where the Falk monster is supposed to be. But all the way up to the Pacific Northwest, where that's where the original Sasquatch Bigfoot is reported to be. But all across North America, do we hear about these ape-like, wildman-like, creatures, even in some place more on the border of being arid as a desert, like in Arizona, where I'm from, where you have the Mogollon monster. So are these things hiding and we just don't see them for a very long time? Do they move across the country? Like, obviously this is more related to the skunk ape than it is like a Bigfoot or a Mogollon monster, because the smell, that is more reported with like the skunk ape down in Florida. But who knows what they could be? They could be things that pop in and out of our dimension that we don't know. Maybe they are just animals that we're just not familiar with. We may not know, and we may never know, but if we keep exploring this world and we keep taking a look around every corner, we may get a sense of what is out there. Now we come to the wrap-up. What are these things? Are they creatures outside of our purview of what we know of as animals? Perhaps they're extra-dimensional beings, like I said before. That's been floated around for things like Bigfoot and others. Hopefully there will come a time when we will have more knowledge of these phenomena, and maybe we'll be able to expand our knowledge, and one day we'll just call them animals, or maybe we'll be like, oh yeah, this thing is more beyond our grasp of what is and isn't. There are multiple sides to every story, and even if the explanation is something mundane, there are so many things out there that we still don't know and will remain unknown. So remember to keep your eyes open and check every shadow. Okay, to end everything off for the episode, we have a few creepy stories. Our first story is called Who Let Me In? I had a friend that lived at some apartments down the street from me. I went over, he answered, and was like, hey, have a seat. I gotta use the bathroom. I'm like, cool. So I'm sitting there watching TV for 20 minutes or so. Then the front door opens, and there was my friend in his work uniform staring at me like, what the fuck? I'm like, bro, what did you do? Jump out the window? He's like, what the fuck are you talking about? You opened the door for me. No, I didn't. You did. You said you had to shit. I wasn't here. You were. You okay? I'm gonna sit down. So one of my best friends was monitoring me for the rest of the night to make sure I wasn't tweaking. He also asked me to come closer so I can hear better as he was talking to me. He was checking his stuff to make sure nothing was missing. That much was obvious. We're still friends today, and he brought up the incident last year, 2021. The incident was like 2001. Just to be sure. I have no explanation. Dude let me into his own apartment. Then same dude showed up 20 minutes later, wondering how the fuck I got in. This is another one of those stories where like people see like doppelgangers or other selves or people that look like them or their friends, and it's just so creepy because like they physically let them in. They physically told them like, sit down, I'm gonna use the restroom, and he was there in his house for 20 minutes. So it's like, was it some person that just looked like his friend that had broke in and let him in? But then, like, why would you even let him in if you're trying to steal something from the house? Like, if you just broke in, right? And then the fact that, like, 20 minutes later, here you show up, and your friend's just sitting in your house, and you're kind of like, well, why are you just sitting in my house waiting for me? He's like, because you let me in here. And it's like, no, I didn't. He's like, yeah, you did. That would freak me out even more. Like to know that someone's just sitting in my house waiting because I told them to, but I didn't. Creepy. Our next story is called Casino Boat Ghost. Working on ships, I'm pretty old, and you hear some weird stories. 4 years ago, during a South American season, I used to hang out with the Brazilians, fun and cool people. One was the gift shop manager. He rant about how his team is lazy and how they keep trying to weasel out of working because they claim to see a little girl running around the gift shop. One night, we were having coffee with the head of the photography department, and he's extra salty, talking about how he'll have to do an extra couple of hours because of his team. In the middle of the night, I get a call from the photo manager. She tells me our friend is in her cabin, crying and shivering. I run over thinking he got some bad news from home or something. Turns out he was working in his office. The door faces a long mirror that covers most of the wall, closed section, and after hearing giggling, he saw the shadow of a child through the reflection, as if she was leaning to look into the door while trying to hide, only in the reflection. He says he jumped up and ran out, the giggling and sounds of tiny feet running around the shop and into the casino. Same deck. I'm not big into the paranormal, but the following day I mentioned this to my boss, and she told me that about 20 years back, a little girl came out of the theater with her parents. She was running ahead of them through the gift shop, but eventually she went into the casino, coming out in the atrium. A drop with glass lifts that go from deck 12 to 5, so a good drop. She leaned over the railing to look down, lost her balance and fell, breaking her neck on impact and dying. Apparently it was a common sighting at the shop at the casino. Yeah, no, that's creepy. I would be out of there as soon as I can. Like, you look in a mirror and you see something looking at you, and then you even hear it running around and you can hear it laughing. That's freaky. That's so scary. I would be out of there 100%. I'd be like, I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't care if, like, this causes me to, like, lose some money or whatever, because, like, are you really going to, like, risk staying there for however much longer and, like, seeing this thing, whatever she is, like, some ghost or whatever? What if there are other things there, too, right? The next story is called Most Awful Dreams. I often get sleep paralysis, and I'm used to it now, but the first time I experienced it, it was pretty terrifying. I dreamed that I was in an arena, and all my family and friends were in the stands calling out to me. About 10 feet away, there was a creature running straight at me. It looked like a very emaciated man, just skin and bones, but his mouth was filled with sharp teeth that almost looked like razors. I couldn't really move, you know how dreams can be, and he grabbed my hand and put it in his mouth and bit down. I felt the most excruciating pain and then woke up. I switched on my bedside lamp and my head was all red my hand was all red where he had bitten me. I was pretty freaked out, and I got up to use the restroom to try and calm down when I saw my roommate leave his room. I called out to him and he said, "Man, I just had the most awful dream." He looked kind of shocked and said to me, "Me too." So I asked him what he dreamed, and he told me almost word for word what I had dreamed. The only difference was the creature didn't bite him but scratched him across his stomach. Then he raised up his shirt, and I saw 3 scratch marks across his belly. I then told him my dream, and we were both pretty freaked out for a while. Ever since that day, I had regular sleep paralysis, and the creature always shows up while I'm paralyzed. I know that this is the internet and people make up all kinds of stuff, but I'm telling the truth. It was the single scariest moment of my life. I think what makes this story in particular, like, pretty scary is that not only did they have, or he, or whoever the main person is, had sleep paralysis, but their roommate had a dream that was exactly like their dream, the same entity type thing. And then, like, the fact that they both wake up and they have injuries from their dreams is even scarier, because to me it's like kind of like the whole like Nightmare on Elm Street thing, where like Freddy Krueger can hurt you in your dreams, but it actually hurts you in the real world. and it's just creepy. And like, so like, what is it like? And then they say how it still shows up while they're having sleep paralysis. So does that mean it's only affecting them, or does their old roommate still get affected by it too? Oh man, that's creepy. Maybe it's something to do with where they lived, or maybe where they live. I don't know if they still live there, but either way, that's creepy. The next story is called The Rental House. My dad owned rental houses. Back in the 90s, my girlfriend and I'd go in after a renter left and rehab the house. One particular house he'd purchased years ago with the renter already in the house. When they passed away, we went in and started in the bedrooms, first painting, then cutting out the carpets. We noticed we kept losing our carpet cutters, but thought we'd accidentally rolled them up in the carpets. So we got fluorescent orange cutters. Nope, still can't find them. Then we pull the living room carpet. Several large stains that looked exactly like dried blood are soaked into the cork underfloor. Okay, might be a stain, or someone severed or butchered a chicken in the living room. No telling. But as I'm painting the living room wall, I see a human-shaped shadow coast across the wall. I think someone was walking around the house. Maybe a meter reader. I run outside and no one's there. Up or down the street, I run around the house. No one is there. We finish in a big hurry and get paid. My dad calls later and asks what we used to clean the house because it's full of flies. I go back, wash every flat surface with bleach and water. Next day, full of flies. It's a house built on a concrete slab, so no crawl space. So he decides there must be getting in through a crack in the slab and fills the cracks with silica. Nope, still flies. I vacuumed up hundreds of dead flies. He lived through the Depression and fought in World War II. He raised 10 kids and lived to tell. But he sold that cursed house in a second. He didn't believe in that shit, but he wasn't a fool. And I completely agree with your dad for selling that, because that does sound like a cursed house. Like, there's just dead flies everywhere constantly, and then, like, what is with all the blood stains, right? Like, what did they do? Did they murder a bunch of people? Then, yeah, like, seeing shadows and stuff, that's creepy. Yeah, your dad made the right decision to just nope out of that house. The next story is called Snowstorm. Recently just started a new job where one of my duties is locking up this building that was once a cancer hospital. I thought it was crazy, but my stories have been confirmed by my coworkers and security camera footage. Most wild experience was about 10 p.m. I'm a massive snowstorm outside, so I expected some weird noises like howling from the wind, etc. I'm on the first floor, which is just a labyrinth of hallways, making sure all the doors are locked. Out of nowhere, I heard what sounded like someone groaning. I attribute this to the wind outside. 5 minutes later, it happened again, so I yelled, "Police! Who's there? Show yourself." Yes, I work for a PD. I radio for backup and confirmation that the building is empty besides me, which is confirmed. Backup never shows up due to the nut snowstorm outside. None of the sergeants felt like coming to help since they knew what was likely going on from watching the cameras. I'm finishing the second floor and I heard what sounded like someone banging their head on the door downstairs or something. It was loud. I get downstairs and the locking mechanisms on the door I heard the noise come from was unlocked. This locking mechanism is only unlocked by two very specific keys. They don't even look like keys. Myself and my sarge on duty are the only ones that have them. At this point, I'm literally sweating and just fucking hurrying up back to the second floor and lock up the fastest I have ever done so. I get back to the base and tell our dispatcher and sergeant what happened, and they're just sitting there laughing, acknowledging my claims. They said that the building is haunted as fuck, and even students have experiences there in midday. My dispatcher then showed me the locking mechanism being unlocked. It's a huge bar of metal, very noticeable on camera, and just chills run down my back. She then showed me running down the hallway on my way to exit, and one of the doors I locked, swung open behind me. I didn't hear it because my gun belt and boots were making too much noise. So yeah, I'm not scared of being shot at, but fuck ghosts. No time for those cocksuckers. 100% right. You did the right thing. You left because, yeah, no, And when you even have it on camera, like that they're like opening the doors and stuff, yeah, no way am I staying there. Like that's why I don't want to. Like, it sounds like it could be fun. Like you don't have to deal with people. You just have to like kind of watch the grounds. You know, doing kind of security stuff. It kind of sounds interesting. But then you realize you're in this building all by yourself, and maybe it's a real danger, like someone actually broke in, right? But I think what makes it even worse is like this idea that it's haunted, and you just start hearing these things, and that's when I'm like, nope, I'm done. I'm not gonna do it, guys. You can. I'll go back to doing something else because I'm not dealing with ghosts either. I'm not gonna deal with ghosts. Too creepy. Our next story is called Daycare Center. I worked in a daycare center for about a year, and all the ladies that worked there told me the place was haunted. One time, 2 ladies were cleaning up the upstairs room and could hear tables being dragged around downstairs. No one else was there. All the kids had gone home. They were too scared to go down there. Next morning, nothing is out of place. One lady swears she saw a kid run up the stairs that were behind a gate, top and bottom. She chased the child up the steps, but there was nothing there at the top, and the gate was closed. None of the children are tall enough to reach the knob that opens the gates. One time the kids were eating a snack, and one kid said, "Why don't you give me some food? Why don't you give some food to the lady?" and pointed. There was no lady there. When asked if it was any of the teachers there by name, the kid said no. Another kid had to use the toilet one morning, and while doing so was looking at the corner as if something scary was there. When asked, she said it was a black and red thing. She absolutely would not go to the toilet alone after that. I was working there at that time, but not the one with her when it happened. We had a discussion about it, and one lady said, "We have to just say she's developed a fear of going to the bathroom. We don't know why." And another lady said, "Yeah, it's not like we can say our center is haunted. She saw a scary ghost and now won't go to the toilet." We all kind of laughed uneasily. Yeah, scary ghosts with kids seeing something that you're not able to see, especially when they describe it as like a black and red thing, and they're not saying it's like a person or anything. Yeah, that's scary. Nope, I would not deal with those little kids. I'd be like, yeah, peace out, little kids. I'm not dealing with you guys. And now this is our last tale, Crashing Through the Woods. I was at my grandma's house in upstate New York. I was 6 years old and playing outside. Her house was in the middle of the woods, and there was this huge flat rock not too far from her yard called Indian Rock, where I guess tribes used to live in the area and used to meet. At least that's what I was told growing up. I heard something crashing through the woods not too far from me near the rock. It was massive, at least 10 feet tall, since it was taller than the garden fence, and luckily I don't think it saw me. I remember it was mostly hairless except for some patches of brown fur. The head was really weird, like a cross between a deer and a bear, but also a human, but wrong? Looking back, I can't explain what I saw. I thought it was something with mange, but bears don't have antlers, and deer don't have claws on their front legs. Alright, now that's pretty creepy. I've heard like stories of like not deers and like skinwalkers, although skinwalkers are mostly like here in the Southwest in Arizona and New Mexico, so I don't think it would be like a skinwalker, especially up in New York. I don't know what that could be. That's terrifying. I think I'd be like terrified out of my mind. Like there's some things that it's just like I'm so glad I don't experience like those types of things, because I would just be scared shitless. Like it's like a bear with antlers that's like Also human looking, ridiculous. Man, there's some creepy things out there. Well, thank you all for listening. Hopefully you had a good Halloween and you're looking forward to Thanksgiving. That's only, if you live in the U.S. I know this episode, like I had said early at the beginning, is a little late. Like I said, my job just is kind of tiring. So by the time I get home, I'm just kind of like beat. And I just want to kind of just relax. And it just kind of takes away from me doing this and entertaining you guys. So hopefully I just want to get back to a regular schedule and get this out for you guys. But if you like what you hear, subscribe to get every new episode downloaded. Do you have any strange, mysterious, or unexplained stories? Are they true? Did you craft a story yourself? We'd love to hear and read your stories, and you can email them to horrorboxpodcast@gmail.com. We also like to post these stories to our socials on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at horrorboxpodcast, where we also have updates and news. One last thing, if you like what you hear and you like the podcast, you'd like to support us, you can buy me a coffee. You can buy me a coffee at coffee.com/horrorboxpodcast. It'd really help out. We'll see you next time and hear what comes out from the Horror Box.